All right. Good afternoon, Ben. It is wonderful to have with me here today on Word on the Street Live as we are inviting folks to join us in our live stream. Ben Cohen, one of the founders of Ben and Jerry's Ice Cream. And to mark the occasion, I was really excited that my team brought a pint of
Oh,
chocolate
nice.
fudge brownie.
Oh, that's a good one. You're lucky.
What is
My
what?
team didn't bring
What
me
is your
any.
favorite? Do you have a favorite? Are you allowed to have a favorite? Is it like
Sure,
kids that you're
I'm
not?
allowed to do whatever I feel like doing sometimes. Well, I really like Chubby Hubby. That's chocolate covered peanut butter filled pretzels with in vanilla malt ice cream with a peanut butter ripple. I like coffee toffee crunch, coffee buzz buzz buzz, and I've been doing vanilla ice cream on wheat thins, which I think a little open faced sandwich, which is I think quite enjoyable. You have the smooth richness of the ice cream and the crunch, slightly salty crunch of the wheat thin. I recommend it.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I love getting this firsthand knowledge. It is, you know, a multi-decade obsession of mine to try to get through as many of your flavors as possible. So it's uh, it's wonderful to hear what your favorites are, and this is wonderful for me here on Word of the Street Live to have a slight break from our usual flow of Washington, D.C. policy wonks and politicos. And we're exploring this week a different realm of activism, which is the realm of corporate responsibility and having a leader in this space, Ben Cohen, a founder of Ben and Jerry's, with us. I'm also really excited because it brings me back, Ben, to my J Street days when I was working for Fenton Communications. And I know we had a number of projects that we were doing, with you and the company and David. And, you've been so engaged in the anti-war space and in the social justice space and the idea of corporate engagement and corporate responsibility. So this is a real, throwback for me. Elon Goldenberg is my usual partner. He is not with us this week. He is off with his family on vacation. He and I will be back next week when we are going to be going live at some point after the Bibi Netanyahu Donald Trump meeting. So folks should look for a notice in your email either later on Monday or at some point on Tuesday. We are going to not do a Wednesday evening pre-New Year's Eve Word on the Street Live, our usual time. Wednesday, 4 p.m. Eastern, will come back the following week, and then we will stay on schedule for the rest of the week. One final plug before we get into our conversation with Ben is I wanted to make sure that folks had seen a piece that I wrote this weekend on the ongoing de facto annexation of the West Bank that has been highlighted. It was highlighted in the New York Times in a wonderful visual piece that they did this weekend, but it was also on Israel's national broadcaster, Channel 1, with a documentary for about an hour, which now has English subtitles. And I circulated with a piece this Sunday, and I really would ask everybody who is watching this, whether you're watching it live or watching it later on one of the other platforms, please do read that piece, watch the documentary, and then share it with people, because it is absolutely impossible to ignore when you see it what is going on the West Bank. And we're going to come back to that with you, Ben, because I really think the reason why you and I are having this conversation today starts with the decision that you all made in 2021 to not allow your product, or it was not your decision. In fact, let's unwrap that. The idea was that a socially responsible ice cream should not be sold in West Bank settlements. And that seems like a pretty straightforward idea. But why don't you take us a little bit back in time to the sort of origin story of how it ended up that Ben and Jerry's is unable to make a decision about where its product is sold and what the relationship is to Unilever. And I think the sale was 2000 of Ben and Jerry's to Unilever. But
That's
Ben
correct.
Cohen, founder, of Ben and Jerry's Ice Cream, is with us here today on Word on the Street Live to talk to us a little bit about his company, its interaction with Israel, the settlement issue, the question of settlement boycotts. And Ben, take it away from here and tell us a little bit about the origin story.
Sure. Ben and Jerry's started in 1978. It was a little homemade ice cream parlor in an old gas station. Jerry and I didn't really expect it to become anything more than that, and it was really good ice cream. And the company had a very strong social conscience, and it took stands, it took actions on a bunch of different social and political issues. And between the great ice cream and people feeling like finally here's a company that cares about something more than just maximizing profits, the company grew hugely. And it was a publicly held company eventually. First, we just sold stock to Vermonters, our neighbors, but then it became listed on NASDAQ, and eventually in the year 2000, Unilever wanted to buy the company, and they made an offer for the stock that was much higher than the stock was trading at. And according to SEC rules, the company, had to get sold to them. That was something I tried to avoid, but couldn't. But in the process of negotiating that sale, Jerry and I were able to require that there was a very unusual form of governance, and it established an independent board of directors for Ben and Jerry's that had responsibility for the social mission, for the quality of the product, for how the product is marketed, and the use of the trademark. And I was concerned that despite what it said on paper, that that the social mission was going to die, but happily the social mission lived and thrived for a long time. And then I think around 2019 or so, both the company, that is the management of the company, and the independent board of Ben and Jerry's started being concerned that selling our ice cream, allowing our ice cream to be sold in the occupied territories in the West Bank, especially, since the occupation was illegal and Palestinians were being mistreated, we felt like we shouldn't be selling the ice cream there. We shouldn't be supporting that. And the company spent a lot of time, years, researching it and visiting Palestine and Israel and talking with people on all sides. And eventually Unilever and Ben and Jerry's and the independent board all decided, yes, we should pull out of the West Bank. And we did that and announced that. And the government of Israel was some pissed off. And they came, what I'm told is that the head of Israel got in touch with the head of Unilever and said, you've got a lot of businesses here in Israel besides Ben and Jerry's, and if you don't somehow find a way to keep this ice cream in the West Bank, we're going to throw all of your business out of Israel. And so, Unilever unilaterally at that time decided that, well, they were going to sell the rights to Ben and Jerry's to an Israeli businessman uh, who would then distribute the ice cream into the West Bank uh, with the packaging written in Hebrew, and that's what happened, and that was that was something that was not allowed under the terms of the acquisition agreement. A decision to do that rested in the hands of the independent board of directors. And after a lot of attempts at negotiating and figuring out a way to resolve the problem, the independent board ended up suing Unilever, which, is a pretty unusual thing to have happen. And that really, eventually there was an out of court settlement. The settlement was violated by Unilever. The board sued him again, and that's currently in the courts. But what happened after 2021, after that conflict, is that Unilever changed the way they related to Ben and Jerry's, and it used to be that Ben and Jerry's would take whatever stands it felt was important to take based on their values, and that would be okay. But Unilever after 2021 started refusing to allow Ben and Jerry's to take public stands on issues that it saw as controversial, and that's continued, and it seems like Unilever and now Magnum, the company that they spun off their ice cream business to, has become somewhat Trumpified, and if Ben and Jerry's tries to take a stand on an issue that Trump wouldn't agree with, it's disallowed by Magnum now, and employees are threatened with being fired if they put out a post like that.
So just a quick point of clarification that I think will be interesting for the folks that are watching. The decision that you all wanted to make in 2019 and that the independent board wanted to make was not to stop selling ice cream in Israel. This was not a boycott of Israel. This was saying that the product shouldn't be sold in illegal settlements on the West Bank. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's exactly correct. Thank you for clarifying that, Jeremy. I think that Israel is deathly afraid of being called an apartheid state and having a boycott, divestment, and sanction movement launched against them by the international community in the same way that was done in South Africa. So you're correct that what Ben and Jerry's was doing was not boycotting Israel. It was not talking about people divesting or sanctioning Israel. It was just saying we didn't want our products sold in the occupied territories. However, it got conflated with the BDS movement, and Israel, the government of Israel, had lobbied in various state legislatures in the United States to pass these anti-BDS laws, and where states passed laws saying that their state funds, the state treasury funds, could not be invested in a company that was participating in boycotts, divestments, or sanctions of Israel. And although that's not what Ben and Jerry's was doing, these companies, I mean, these states divested from Unilever stock, and that didn't sit real well with Unilever.
Right. And I think that's just such an important point. The conflation of the territory that Israel has occupied since 1967 with the actual state of Israel within that line called the Green Line that defined Israel from 48 to 67. That conflation is something that it's in Israel's interest. This right-wing government of Israel would like the world to think that, in fact, it is in control of all the land from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea, that this is all one contiguous body. But in reality, there is a very critical legal distinction that the territory where the settlements is not recognized by anybody in the world as part of the state of Israel. And in fact, the state of Israel itself has not annexed the territory, thankfully, legally, and it is ruled by a military governor. It is under the laws of occupation. There is no, when the Knesset passes a law for the state of Israel, that law doesn't apply to the settlements. The law has to be taken by the governor general, a military general, and made effective for the settlement. So there is a very clear distinction under Israeli law between what happens on the West Bank and what happens in Israel proper. Yet in the court of public opinion, Israel does what you just said, which is it pushes and it lobbies and it tries to erase that distinction. We call it differentiation. It's really important to J Street. We support the idea of Israel. We're a group that is pro-Israel. We're anti-occupation, and we think the Palestinian people have to have a state, and they have to have it on the West Bank, which is the land on which the settlements are being built, and that everything that happens there that makes life normal, for instance, selling ice cream, in the settlements makes life normal, just as if you were living in Tel Aviv or inside any other Israeli city. And so this kind of differentiation to us is not a boycott. What it is it's a recognition of what the actual reality is. So we were very supportive of what you were trying to do and trying to help make the case that this was not a full-on boycott of the state of Israel.
Thank you. Yeah. We can use all the help we can get.
Exactly. So now, fast forward a bit, and you have had this ongoing battle to try to free Ben and Jerry's, right? And that is, I wanted to give you a chance to tell folks a little bit about the effort to regain independence and what can people do who are interested in supporting the effort of Ben and Jerry's to gain its freedom back from the larger corporate structures that are denying your freedom of speech and political activism?
Yeah, I mean, all we'd been trying to do was to get Unilever and Magnum now to abide by the terms of this legally binding agreement. They refuse to do so. They've been attempting to dismantle this independent board of directors that has all this power. And Jerry and I came to the conclusion that under the current ownership, there's no way that Ben and Jerry's will be able to remain the company that we've all come to know. That Ben and Jerry's will lose the social values and the social activism that's been a hallmark of the company. Who knows what's going to happen with the quality of the ice cream, and so Unilever at one point, about 2 years ago now, decided that they want to sell off their entire ice cream division. Um, they own about, I think it's 100 brands now around the world. Two of the top ones, one of them is Magnum. It's a chocolate covered ice cream bar on a stick, and the other one is Ben and Jerry's. And what we said when Unilever announced that they wanted to sell off their whole ice cream business was, well, why don't you just sell off Ben and Jerry's separate? We've got a group of socially aligned investors that support the social mission and would like to buy it. And, that would solve this conflict. That would solve this problem. But Unilever and Magnum refused to do that. And so, like I said, Jerry and I realized that there was no way that the company was going to remain that force for progressive social change that it's been under the current ownership. And so Jerry actually resigned because of that. And I decided to stay and start the Free Ben and Jerry's campaign to kind of pressure Unilever and Magnum to try to help them to understand that it's in the financial interests of the Magnum ice cream company to sell off this asset, this company that they don't agree with, so that they can focus on the other brands that they own that don't have a social mission. But what we say to them is, let Ben and Jerry's be Ben and Jerry's, let Magnum and Unilever be Magnum and Unilever. That's fine, but don't turn Ben and Jerry's into just another piece of frozen mush like a lot of your other brands.
Well, it sounds like it would be a great, Seder, let my ice cream go.
Exactly. I was thinking of that last Passover, and God willing, this year Ben and Jerry's will be in the promised land. We will have been delivered from bondage.
Exactly. So I'll just encourage again all of our viewers and listeners to please do visit freebenandjerrys.com and join the social media pressure campaign here to free Ben and Jerry's and deliver them not just to our homes but to the promised land. So very
the true land of milk and honey, frozen milk and honey, cream,
exactly,
cream and
honey. Well, tell me a little bit, the values, this social mission of the company, and you contrasted it to the Trump era where we see corporate titans and law firms and all sorts of institutional powers essentially bending the knee to what it is that the Trump administration, the Trump team wants. Where do you see the movement for corporate responsibility heading in the 2020s and beyond, given the way in which corporate America has so readily fallen in line and given into so much of the pressure that is coming from an assertive right-wing White House and administration? Is there still a role for progressive social entrepreneurs and that voice within the corporate world?
Yeah, after the murder of George Floyd, all these large mainstream companies came out with these wonderful statements about ending discrimination and proactively getting more focused on diversifying their workforce and their supplier base, and ended up making these commitments to, banks were making commitments to make loans to Black people. And, and then Trump comes into office saying DEI bad, and they all just jettisoned all those programs, all those commitments that they made. So, I mean, I was really, really happy when they made those statements. I thought that, corporate America is finally finding a conscience. And I was incredibly saddened when it appeared that it was just they didn't really, it was just kind of like a fad that they tacked on, and then they just kind of let it go when the guy in the Oval Office says he doesn't like it. I our democracy is being systematically destroyed. It's being turned into some kind of authoritarian kind of government, and where you know so as you said, you have all these law firms and corporations and politicians. I mean, everybody is just kind of, as you said, bending the knee. That wow, if the president says it, we're just going to go right along with it. We're going to contribute money to his crazy stuff. And I think that the reality is that business has become the most powerful force in our society. It used to be religion, then it used to be nation states, and today it's business. I mean, the government should be regulating business, but it's the other way around. Business regulates government. Business controls our elections through campaign contributions. It controls our legislation through lobbying. It controls our media and the news we see through ownership. So I think if we're going to save our democracy, I think that business needs to stand up. And certainly that's what I'm looking for a free Ben and Jerry's to do. And, I was just talking with a guy who runs, a kind of a center for human rights at a business school. And this guy used to be in, presidential administrations, and he's talking to, the heads of a bunch of these major corporations, and, behind closed doors, they're saying, this guy is crazy, and, we got to do something about him. But in public, they don't want to, they don't want to stick out. They don't want to be, put themselves in risk of, I don't know, derision or whatever. And, I thought about how companies are dealing with this, and, it's distressing to see them just, appeasing Trump. And, and then I realized that, most corporations, they don't have a social mission. They don't have a 3-part mission where the social mission is on an equal level with the financial mission. All they've got is a financial mission. That financial mission is to maximize short-term profits, so it looks good on the quarterly reports. And if that's the sole mission of your organization, and the guy in the White House can make it hard for you to maximize profits if you don't do what he says, then it becomes a fairly easy decision. I'm trying to maximize short-term profits. If I go against this guy, my short-term profits are in jeopardy. So I'm going to do what he says.
So we are here with Ben Cohen, the founder of Ben and Jerry's Ice Cream. I'm enjoying a pint of chocolate fudge brownie while we are talking, and we are here on Word on the Street Live. Come to you every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Please pass along the sign up to your friends and subscribe to get our regular analyses of what's going on in Israel, what's going on in the Middle East, what's happening in American politics, what is happening in our democracy. All of this is related. J Street's at the front lines leading the fight for the Jewish and the democratic values that we believe in. And Ben, I wanted to shift gears a little bit to the fact that, you and Jerry are both Jewish, and the values on which the company was founded, it's a social justice mission. And you are, in a sense, I mean, I don't know if you view it this way, but I see the values that Ben and Jerry's puts into effect as being very grounded in the Jewish values on which I was raised. And I'm curious if that set of values and ideals, comes to you through a connection to tradition, and is this something that you feel a connectivity to an identity in the Jewish world at all, or is it more just a political and democratic identity?
I think it certainly comes from my early education as a Jew. I wasn't particularly religious. I mean, I did get bar mitzvahed because my parents made me, and I did attend the Center Island Jewish School when I was in elementary school, and this was a school that taught Jewish culture, dances, songs, food, and it also taught the history of the Jews, and a history of oppression and being scapegoats, and certainly that made me very conscious and sympathetic with other people that are being oppressed and treated as scapegoats. Today, I've been very focused on issues of racial justice, and today the people that are being scapegoated are immigrants, and so I'm very sympathetic to the plight of immigrants, who are mostly people coming from countries that the U.S. has interfered with in terms of invasions, in terms of covert overthrows and coups, in terms of economic policies. So the U.S. kind of screwed up their countries, and so they're trying to come to our country to have a shot at a decent life. And I have no problem with immigrants, but there is the issue that they're being treated as scapegoats, just like the Jews were treated as scapegoats. I mean, they're not making anybody's life problematic. I mean, what's the problem? But it's good for the authoritarian leader to blame all the problems on some group, and that's what he's doing, just as had been done to the Jews kind of throughout history. It's interesting that there's this woman now. I forgot what her name is, but she's the woman who's going around saying that, oh, we made a mistake in terms of Holocaust education, that really what we were trying to tell people was that you shouldn't commit genocide on Jews, but they took it to mean you shouldn't commit genocide on anyone, and we really screwed up. I mean, I think that's crazy. It's amazing to me.
Yeah, I mean, there are so many people who take the values that we have instilled in our young people, where we have taught them that the essence of being Jewish is you don't treat other people the way that we were treated. That's where we learned our morals, right? Was because we were oppressed, and so we learned do not oppress, right? That is the heart of the Jewish ethos and our ethics and our morals, and we instilled that in our kids, and then our kids turn around and say, "But wait a minute, what are you doing to the Palestinian people? How is it possible that the Jewish people now have their state, they have their independence, they have their power, and they're turning around and treating other people the way that we don't want to be treated ourselves?" And then educators and leaders in our community say, "Uh-oh, we did something wrong. Somehow our kids are turning against us." And I'm thinking to myself, well, actually, we did something right. We really instilled these values, these wonderful values about standing up for immigrants and standing up for the oppressed and standing up for those who don't have. And that's the best of Judaism. And if you're standing up to your parents and you're standing up to your rabbi and you're standing up to your community and to the state of Israel, of the Jewish people, and saying you're not living up to the morals, that's the best thing we could ever have done, is to create a generation that says that. And so, it just kills me, as you said, when they turn out and say, "Oops, we made a mistake. Never again, only applied to us." That's that. We didn't mean it for everybody else. That is not the right message. And it's certainly not the message that you and Jerry, pursue through your social mission and through the mission of Ben and Jerry's, where I think you're upholding the best of the Jewish people.
Yeah, and it's not just the Jewish religion or the Jewish upbringing. I mean,
Right.
it's the Christian upbringing. I mean, it's the season, peace on earth, goodwill to all. And when you think about Jesus, there used to be this phrase that was going around, what would Jesus do? I mean, he wouldn't be sending immigrants to El Salvador, to the worst, most hellish prison probably in the world. He would be welcoming them. I mean, you had the Catholic bishops came out and made a statement that the way the U.S. is treating immigrants is unchristlike. And so, I mean, the religions, both the Jewish religion and Jesus Christ, I think are on the same page. Let's not oppress people. Let's take care of people. Let's be kind to people. And yet, the religions, some of the organizations, they kind of misunderstand, I think, what was really meant by the essence of Judaism, or the essence of Jesus Christ.
Yeah, no, I think it becomes very tribal. Instead of being grounded in the values, it becomes grounded in the tribe. And you end up just wanting to defend your people at all costs. And that becomes the institutional imperative of some of the organizations. And I think sometimes they refer to themselves as defense organizations, right? And anybody who's criticizing, we're seeing that play out, frankly, in some of the criticism of the mayor-elect of New York, where, he is very harshly critical of what's going on in Israel. Certainly, he's the furthest thing from a Zionist than one could possibly be, and I, disagree with him very much on some of his views. But to turn around and just immediately start going after him and everyone around him on the grounds of being an anti-Semite, when most of the things that are being said and done are really just very harsh criticism of what Israel is doing, it leans into that tribal side of identity and loses the values and loses the essence of the morals that I think are the beauty of the community, rather than the more tribal and defensive nature.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. That not something that I usually think about. That it's people are approaching it from a tribal point of view. My tribe says this, so I agree with it. The other tribe says that, so I don't agree with it. People need to start thinking for themselves and with their hearts, I think.
And a little more universally. I mean, and again, it gets back to those values are universal values, right? And we're all going to do better if there is equality and freedom and justice for everyone. And if we who are being attacked stand together with others who are being attacked, we have a much greater chance of beating the oppressor than if one starts fighting with all the other oppressed groups over who's, victimhood and who has suffered more. And that is not a strategy for success, right? We have a larger fight, which is we have this Trump, MAGA, anti-democratic, autocratic, ethno-nationalist, racist movement out there. And whether you are an immigrant or you are a Muslim American or you are a Jewish American or you are any form or flavor of American who doesn't like this, you need to stand together and not fight with each other, because we have a much bigger problem than we have with each other with this larger autocratic ethno-nationalist view that is coming after all of us.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right.
So I wanted to bring us home with a final set of questions around, you have obviously had some real engagement now with the Israel-Palestine issue through Ben and Jerry's over these last few years, but you have a larger campaign that you are very active on, which relates a lot to the militarization of our foreign policy and in fact of our entire national budget and how much money we spend on arms and weapons and where that could be going. And I'd love for you to just tell folks a little bit about that campaign, and hopefully it's something that people will check out and get involved in as well.
Sure. It's the Up in Arms campaign, upinarms.life. And it's pretty much a campaign about how, the American dream is no longer accessible to people anymore. You can't afford a house, you can't afford childcare, you can't afford health care. And the reason why it's not is that we're wasting, now it's like 70% of the entire expendable income of our country on the Department of War, actual wars, preparations for wars, cleaning up after wars, trying to take care of all the veterans that get horribly wounded in wars. And the cost is just staggering. I mean, when I was getting into this at the beginning, the cost was under $1 billion a day, which was a shitload of money. Now it is over $2 billion a day. It's getting closer to 3. What you could do with that money if you were using it to help people as opposed to destroy people is, there's no end. You could solve every problem that we've got in terms of hunger at home and around the world, in terms of healthcare, preventable disease at home and around the world. You could fully fund our schools here in the U.S., and you'd still have a whole lot left over, more than any other country spends on their military. So, the problem is that people come to Congress or to their elected representative and they say, wow, we need money for our kids, we need money for food, money for our schools, can't afford a house. And they say, oh, geez, I'm sorry. That's so bad. I really feel for you, but we just don't have any money. And that is a lie. What they mean is, we've decided to waste your money on paying weapons manufacturers to build weapons that are designed to kill literally hundreds of millions of people. It's just stupid. It's just an incredible waste. It's immoral. It's irrational. And it's stealing money out of everybody's pockets. So there's a way to do something about it. Go to upinarms.life.
And, one of the big misdirects that happens from the pro-military, pro-defense spending forces is this concept that somehow we're wasting so much money on USAID type programs, on foreign aid, on, the giveaways of medicine and healthcare to poor countries. So when Elon Musk comes with his chainsaw and Doge and they want to, save the government money, what do? They go after the less than 1% of the budget that we spend on diplomacy and economic development and health assistance and all the rest of it. And they say that's where the waste is. Meanwhile, the 70% of the budget that's over here, going into the military industrial complex is completely ignored. And in fact, this administration is going to increase the spending there while they're zeroing out programs that are actually now costing the lives of people around the world because they're not getting the food and the health care that they used to, thanks to some of the programs that we used to run. So our priorities are completely upside down. Standing up for this is another example of you living out your values and standing up for what's right. And I'll just say on behalf of J Street that Ben Cohen and Jerry Greenfield, you guys represent the best of our values and the best of our people. And I say thank you, not only for the best ice cream in the world that I just eat all the time and love so much, but also for doing what you do to make the world, try to make the world a better place and to live up to the values that you hold. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you, Jeremy. It's good to be in this together with you.
Absolutely. And thanks to everybody who is joining us on Word on the Street Live. Please join us every week, usually Wednesdays, 4 p.m. Eastern. Please go out and buy some Ben & Jerry's and join the free Ben & Jerry's movement, and check out upinarms.life and join us here at J Street as well. I wish everybody a good holiday week. End of Hanukkah just happened. We're coming up on Christmas, the New Year's. So happy holidays to everybody and their family. And thank you again to Ben.
All right. Take care.